Hello, today I'll be showing you how you can make your own Roblox GFX or graphic. You want to start off by going to plugins and then downloading the character insert or load character plugin. You can do this by going to view, toolbox, and then just going to plugins. You can then search character and then it will be one of the first results. Of course, you can find the character in the toolbox, which will be here. You can go to models and search up for any character. I recommend using an R6 character, which means it won't have separate joints like this one. So now you want to insert your character or get it from the toolbox. So I want to use character insert as I prefer that. Click on it and then you can type in whatever name. So I'll be typing in my own character and then I'll be spawning it as R6, as R15, which has more joints, isn't as effective in Blender. So I click on R6 and then it spawns in my character. Make sure in the transform tab in the properties, which can be found by going to view and properties, make sure that the origin position is 000 and the orientation is 000. Now you can try and export it. Additionally, quite often if your character isn't standing on top of the base plate, of which I've deleted, you may need to raise it to something like 040. Now that I've got it imported, I want to export the character by right clicking on it and going to export selection. I want to create a new folder, to right click new folder, and then I'll type in character. Now in that folder you want to make a few separate folders for your character, for example the beret and the hair and the body. So you want to do new folder character, which will be the actual character itself, new folder beret, and new folder hair. Now that that's done, you can go to character and save it in there as car. Then you want to click on the drop down and export his hair and beret, or whatever accessories it may have. Meshes work as well, so if it has a mesh or a model attached to it, that also works. You just right click on it, export selection, and then export it in the correct area. So this is hair, so I'm going to export hair. And then the beret, right click, export selection, character, beret, beret. Now that that's done, you'll want to download the rig that I've put in the description. You can either use starter rig or rhino rig. For this I'll be using starter rig, as that is a more popular opinion and it's more compatible with Roblox at the moment. After installing it, you want to extract the folder and you should find this. So you want to go into the folder Roblox starter rigs and you'll find this. You go to rigs and you'll find all of these. I recommend using starter blocky rig, but you can use whatever you want depending on your character type. Though if you're doing something like a military GFX, you want to use starter blocky rig. You can open it by double clicking on it. Now that you're in, you want to create a shade editor at the top. So you want to right click, horizontal split, and you can just click, which will split the screen. Then at the top left, underneath the blender icon, you want to click on this. And you want to go to shader editor. Then you want to select the character and go over to the main texture. If your scroll wheel is broken, you can use the plus or minus on the numpad. So then you want to set the trajectory. You can just click whatever on this and then click folder. Then you want to navigate to the correct area, so I'm going commissions and I'm just going to import the character. You want to use character, not beret or hair or any other you may have. So I'm going to click on character and then I'm going to click on handle. It may be called something else. Now you'll notice that it hasn't changed. That's just because we're in this shade view. So you want to move to this other one, which will allow you to see it. If you want to see a nicer version of it, you can go to the far right. For now, I'll be using this as it's less laggy. Now you can import the other items. If you wanted to import a separate item, like a weapon, you can go back to Roblox Studio and find one. So I recommend going to Toolbox and then just searching up something like gun mesh. Then you can find any gun you found. So I'm going to use what looks like some kind of machine gun. I'm going to change the position in the origin to 000 and make sure the orientation is 000. Then I'm going to press F to lock on, and then I'm going to export it in the Explorer window by right clicking, export selection, going back to the characters tab and creating a new folder called gun. In here I'm just going to save it as weapon. Then you can make your way back to Blender and start importing. So I go File, Import, OBJ, and then I make my way to the folder. So Desktop, Commissions, and then Character. So now I want to import the beret. So here's the beret. This is normal if it starts at the bottom. So now I can move up like this, so it's fitted to his head. You can do File, Import, OBJ, and then go back and import the hair. Now quite often, when you're adjusting this, the hair will clip with some kind of hat, so I prefer to just scale up whatever hat it is and put that on. Okay, now that that's done and the beret's been imported, you can go to File, Import, OBJ, and then bring in the gun, weapon, and you can just use the tools on the side to move it around. Now you can, at the top here, you can click on Z and move it by pressing R. You can also press scroll wheel to lock it onto an axis. I just want it to be faced slightly forward like this. Now I can use these move tools to move it forward, like that. Additionally, if you want to change the face, you can select the face and download the HD faces, which will be linked in the description, but you can just delete it as it says. So I'm going to adjust the gun, moving it up into the correct looking position. You can set this to whatever you want. I just would put the gun stock slightly in the shoulder. That's it. So now you want to pose the character, so you click on these little lines around the character and make sure they're highlighted. The top left here, you go to Object Mode, Pose Mode, and you can style it here. So you can use the different tools on the side to move it around. So I'm going to move it forward, forward, and a tiny bit forward. Now I want to use the move tool, move it slightly forward like this, and then turn it around. Make sure it doesn't look too unnatural, because you wouldn't be doing this kind of position when shooting. You want to have it slightly curved round. And then for the other part, you can just set it to what you want. What I like is like a nozzle grab, like you would in low ready or high ready. You can do this by just doing a simple stretch forward with the hand. And then move it forward. And then if that doesn't fit, you can now just adjust the gun. So you can go to here, Object Mode, and move the gun into their hands. Now the stock is clipping in, so I just want to move it forward slightly, and that looks fine. Now you want to move the feet, because you wouldn't be standing with rigid feet whilst holding a gun. So you want to go Object Mode, after selecting this, Object Mode, Pose Mode, and then you can just move the feet slightly forward like this on both of them. and then use the separate joint, move it kind of like this. Make sure it's colliding because it doesn't look very nice when you're doing, and then that looks fine. You can also move the head forward, which does help. So you don't want to do this, otherwise that's just going to manipulate the head. So I'm going to rotate the head slightly forward so he's leaning into it. And looks like he's moving forward. Now you want to go onto the -x-axis and rotate the different parts. So I go into pose mode, object mode, and then I can rotate it by pressing R. Just make sure it's in line with his head. It doesn't have to be on yet. And then now that that's in line, you can select both of them and move it back with the move tool. You can then make separate changes. And that looks nice. Now that that's done, you want to try and render it. But we can't render it without a camera, so you have to do Shift A, making sure we're in object mode, Shift A, search, camera. Now that the camera is imported, you want to lock onto the camera by pressing toggle the camera view on the side, and then you want to go view, navigation, and walk navigation. Now I can move it into a nice angle, so I'm just going to have like a straight on shot. Now that's done, you can click and it will lock the camera into position. And now if we were to try and export it now, the room would look quite dull. It would look like this. So we want lights. So I've attached a lightroom.blend file, which you can download and extract. Once that's extracted, you can go to File, you can go to Append, and then you can make your way to where you've downloaded it. So I've downloaded it here. Double click on lightroom.blend, and then make your way to Collection and Lightroom. That will import all the lights. So it will look a bit jarring at first because of rendering, and also it's quite bright. So to fix that, we can change the lighting by going to Lightroom Stuff, Materials, and changing it here. So light strength and light color. I'm just going to turn it down. And the warm and cold effect go quite nice with the Affinity Photo halftone effect. So I'm just going to pull those up. And I've just noticed that the arm is clipping into the body slightly. So I'm going to move it out and rotate it around slightly. Now that's done, I'm just going to move the gun again in object mode very slightly. That's done. Now before you render and you've set the camera position, I recommend setting a transparent background. So go to render and film, and then add in transparent. That should add in a transparent background. You can add in other stuff like a depth of field, motion blur. Now you can add in depth of field by going to the camera tab with the camera selected, depth of field, and then choose the object that you want to focus on. So I'll choose the weapon, and then I'm just going to adjust the camera. Now that's done, you can do render image. Now this will take a while, but it's worth the wait. Now that it's finished rendering, I can just save the image, save as, and save it to where you want. I recommend going to the folder of which you've downloaded it in. So commissions, and then character, create a new folder, and save the image. Or you can just save as image. Now I prefer to use Affinity Photo, but that's not free. So I'll be showing you how you can do this in Photopea to make a nice military GFX.